Hello everyone, my name is Ronnie and thank you for joining this channel and for watching the video, or if this goes up in an audio format for listening to the podcast, the Love Fruit podcast, which I might post this here because I want to make a video about the Woodstock Fruit Festival, and I will be going there next week, and it will be the 11th time that I've been to the Woodstock Fruit Festival. And some of you might know I'm a raw vegan. I've been on a raw vegan diet since about 2011, 2012. And in most of that time, I've been an attendee of the Woodstock Fruit Festival. And I wanted to talk a little bit about it and why I'm going and some of what I know about the event for people that maybe don't know about it, and for people that are perhaps going and who might want a bit more, or a bit would like to hear a perspective on it from me. And I have a sense, I don't know for sure, but there is a chance this could be the last time. There's always a chance it could be the last time. And there's a lot of things I wanted to say about it. For some context about myself, I am a raw vegan, been following a raw vegan diet. I run a raw vegan festival, but I've been to about 37 raw vegan festivals of different sizes in different locations, and it's been a big passion for me and a big part of my life. So I'm quite biased about it. So I will put that across. I'm biased about it because I am on a raw vegan diet, which I believe in and enjoy, and because I've been to the festivals and because I run a raw vegan festival. So I have a particular perspective on it. Now, I started the Woodstock Fruit Festival, for some information for you. It started in 2011, and it was founded by Michael Arnstein, who at the time was on a fruitarian diet, called himself the Fruitarian. And if you type in Fruitarian in YouTube to this day, a lot of his videos come up as some of the first videos. Michael, I don't know a great deal about him, to be honest, but he was living in New York. He runs a successful sapphire related business, jewelry business, which from what I gather, he basically started for himself. Although his family had connections to working in that kind of industry, they weren't doing anything. It wasn't like he was passed on this business. This is something that he developed over time and developed for himself, and I think became quite successful in that. But he was also a marathon runner and a part-time athlete, and he found the 80-10-10 diet book. His wife actually gave him the book, and he started to experiment with this diet and started to see if it would help him with his running, and it did. And he saw some amazing improvements, and he was able to run his best times and train more than ever. And he started doing ultra marathons, and he was documenting this online, and he became very passionate about the diet. And this led to him founding this festival, because the one thing that a lot of people within this community would say is that the one thing we often don't have is the community, is having all these people together to do this together with and to have a great time with. And I think he also wanted his family to get inspired to get on the diet with him. And so I think there was a number of things involved. From what I gather, he posted on the website 30 Bananas a Day, which at the time was a very big forum. Basically the biggest raw food or raw vegan forum in the world at the time, run by Harley Johnstone and Freely, who were two big influencers at the time, or growing influencers on YouTube in particular, who were sharing about the raw vegan and specifically the 80-10-10 diet. And Michael Arnstein, Harley, Freely were all proponents of the 80-10-10 diet, which is a book written by Dr. Doug Graham. And that book was really, is still for many seen as the Bible of the modern low-fat raw vegan diet, but it was aimed towards athletes, and Harley was an athlete, Mike was an athlete, and a lot of the other people involved were um, very fit, athletic kind of people who were influenced and inspired by this. And there was a lot of young people getting into it because of seeing improvements to their athleticism and so on through eating more fruit. So they had the forum, 30 Bananas a Day. Michael, I think, posted on that looking for other people doing this in New York, and he met Yulia. And Yulia had moved to the US, I think, from Russia, was living in New York. I've interviewed her. She's been on a raw vegan diet about 20 years, long term. She'd been working in a raw food restaurant and other things in New York, and they met and they came up with the idea of the festival. And so really Yulia has always been involved with the festival from the start, and has been the director of the festival, the person that's been day to day running the festival. And Mike was always part of that, and Mike was obviously financially sort of backing it to some degree or other. And they talk about trying to find the first venue. They've talked about that before, and finding one place and putting a deposit down, and then losing that deposit because they couldn't use the place for one reason or other. And then they found another place. And what was quite amazing about it was the first year they did it, which I was not there in the first year, but they got together this cast of great speakers and influencers and teachers who were, at least in the online YouTube scene, were most of the big names who were involved in the movement. Obviously, Doug Graham was there. Harley and Freely were both there. Both had come from Australia to be there. Fully Raw Christina was there. Now, all these people were smaller then in terms of their followings, but at the time were big for the raw vegan movement. The Life Regenerator, Dan McDonald, who was very big at the time. Tim Van Orden, who was influential at the time. And a whole cast of other people, a whole bunch of other very educated, experienced raw vegan people who were part of the event. So he'd managed to get together a really strong group of people to be at the event. And many of them continue to this day to be at the event. And I think there was around 200 people in the first year. It took place in upstate New York. I think it was like a Buddhist retreat center. I think it's called Menla, from what I gather. And for me personally, the reason that I got into learned about the festival was because after following people like Harley and maybe Mike's videos, I'm not sure, and Tim Van Orden's videos and so on, the videos of the Woodstock Fruit Festival were popping up. And I think that they were promoting the Woodstock Fruit Festival. And I'd just come back from New York in 2011. I'd went on a holiday to New York City, to Philadelphia and New York City with my ex-girlfriend at the time. And we'd just come back from New York, and I started to learn about the raw vegan diet a month after coming back from New York, or weeks after coming back from New York, and found out there had been this festival, like just not where I'd been, but there was videos of Harley training in Central Park. And I was like, oh wow, this guy was in Central Park. I was there just a few weeks ago. And it's always been interested in my head, like maybe I bumped into someone, maybe I saw someone, who knows, maybe some kind of seed was planted in my head at that time. But that was interesting. Then I watched the videos of the festival, so that the highlight videos that came out, and they were actually put together, I believe, by a bunch of guys called the Raw Bros, who were not raw for very long, but they were at the festival, and they made these incredible clip videos that still to this day excite me and bring up emotion in me, and Even the songs that were involved bring up certain emotions in me, because it was such an exciting thing for me anyway to watch, was this gathering of these fit, healthy, a lot of them young, but that's not a big deal. But there was a lot of young, healthy, fit people, but also older people who were fit and healthy, um, and they were having fun, and it was out in nature, and they were all eating fruit, and they were excited to be there, and you could sense the excitement and the joy that people had in being there. And I had this belief at the time that if someone was on a raw vegan diet, that it would like heighten their consciousness, their awareness, their whatever you want. I thought it would kind of make people better in a way, and that if you had all those people together, that it would be such a unbelievable experience. And I'd always felt slightly like I don't know, not necessarily like I didn't fit in, but I was always looking for a kind of tribe of people that I would maybe fit in more with, that were, more open and more kind and loving, and I don't know, more spiritual, I guess, in a sense, and all these kind of things, more aware, more conscious. So I guess I was kind of looking for a tribe, and I thought this was it. These were the people, and I did. I think that was maybe too much. Maybe I was expecting too much of people, but that's what I kind of saw presented in the video, and it just set something alight in me, and it was a real pull and a calling that I should go to this thing, that I should be there. And I think still took me a long time. I think it was many months that I was thinking about going. It wasn't something that I jumped into straight away. But I was thinking and thinking. I was a big fan of Harley. I was watching his stuff all the time. I was a big fan of Tim, but I'm not sure if I knew he was going or not. But I wanted to learn from Doug Graham because he was seen as kind of the master. Michael Arnstein, I was not following him as much, but all of these people I was fascinated by, because they were doing this diet. Like, they were raw vegan. I was amazed by that. And that was my goal. I wanted to experience the diet and do it long term. So I wanted to learn about the diet. In terms of how I found out about the festival, it was from YouTube. It was from Harley, Tim, I think, Michael Arnstein. It was from the videos that Woodstock put up on YouTube that came up through YouTube, because I was watching these raw vegan videos. So, and those videos, I always felt almost like a jealousy that I didn't go to the first year, that I wasn't there at the first year. I always, whenever I've met people that were there at the first year, I'm always curious about it. I'm always asking questions and always wanting to know about it. Anne Osborne always said that the Menla Retreat Centre she thought it was a better place for the festival to be. Other people would say it was really exciting because it was the first time all these people came together. Whereas it became kind of normal for them all to come together. But this was the first time a lot of these people met in real life. So it was a really exciting thing, because all these people had really been spread out trying this diet on their own. The videos made it look like a paradise on earth. It really did look like this is beautiful people having fun, loving, open, conscious, aware, healthy, happy. It just made it look so inviting and enticing. I wanted to meet the pioneers. I wanted to learn, and I wanted to learn how to do the diet and see, because I was confused by some of the information I was getting, I think. So I went along 2012, and I wasn't very experienced with traveling, especially on my own, and I had a few issues there, but I won't go into all that. I'll just get quickly into the story of going to the event. Took the bus to the event. I remember the feeling I had. I saw people get on the bus that had been in some of the videos that I'd been watching. So even if it was attendees, I was like, wow, that person who I remembered from the videos, or who I saw in other videos, maybe they were at a Doug Graham event and I saw them in a highlight video for that. So I was seeing all these people, thought these are these special people, you know. I thought that's how I felt towards it. And Robert Lockhart got on the bus, and Tony Wright got on the bus, and all these different people. And I still had this expectation that everyone's this amazing spiritual being and stuff. I think I really sort of, on some level, wanted to believe that. Um, and as eventually the bus was turning up to the festival, and I remember the excitement when we could see Doug Graham was there and Harley, and they were kind of standing talking to each other as the bus was pulling in. We're like, wow, look, there they are in real life. And it was a real excitement in the bus. And that year, the first day, I think there might have been 300 to 400 people in total there. We went into the rec hall at the start, and it was so exciting having all these different speakers introduced, and it really felt, and I think Mike helped to make it feel like this was a movement, like this is something that we were part of. And he would sometimes make speeches about his passion for the diet and what he saw as this important thing. And it was just really an exciting, beautiful thing to be part of. From the first night I was meeting, and even the night before at the hostel and stuff, I was meeting wonderful people. I was having great conversations, and it was so fun because we'd had some of the same experiences. And that's what made it so easy to connect with people, is we had similar experiences on this diet. We'd been watching similar videos. We were part of a similar movement. So we all had very similar conversations, and we could mention things and problems and challenges and mistakes, and we'd all had those same things, and then talking about certain videos and laughing about it, and we'd all seen those videos, or a lot of us had seen those videos. So it was a really great way of meeting. And I've always been a little bit more introvert, or more introvert for sure than extrovert. And I met so many people that year, and it was a place for me to kind of get out of my skin a bit more, to develop myself a little bit more, because I wasn't around friends and family and people. I was around a different new group of people, and it was a lot of Americans, and Americans are kind of often, not all, I suppose, but that group, we're looking for the best in you. We're looking for the positive in you. We're looking to inspire you and give you confidence and believed in you and stuff like that. And a lot of Americans are quite good at that. And so that was a great energy to be around in itself. But a lot of the people had been in the forums and everything, and it was great. And one of the first people I met on the first night was a guy called Connor, who some of you might have seen over the years. He became quite well known as a raw vegan influencer for a while, and then changed to doing other stuff, and he was doing relationship content online with his partner, and he's done counselling stuff, and he's changed. And to be honest, I'm not really in touch with him very at all really anymore. But for a while, I felt very close friends with him, and I met him on the first night. I thought, this guy's a great, fantastic person, and spent quite a lot of the festival with him, and with a whole group of other people. And I got to play a song at the event, which went down quite well at the talent show, which ended up in the video. And I met Robert Lockhart. I didn't really meet Doug Graham that year. He was kind of hard to get a chance to speak to, and Doug's, he's different. It depends. People have different experiences with Doug. I found him quite difficult to get to know or to get a chance to talk to, or they didn't have scheduled Q&A sessions and stuff, so it was hard to just go up and speak to someone, and he was usually surrounded by people. So it wasn't necessarily that easy to talk or be able to ask questions of some of these people. I think I maybe asked a question at his talk, but I didn't really get to know him. But Robert Lockhart I got to know a little bit, and he was a man in his late 60s, close to 70 at the time, And it was very inspiring to see him and hear his ideas. And he was kind of a interesting character, you know. So I enjoyed that, and he actually started a conversation with me, which was very like what was kind of unusual. Not none of the other speakers did that. So he started a conversation with me. We had a good chat, and stayed in touch with him over the years, until he unfortunately passed away a couple of years ago. So it was a beautiful location. The cabin that I was in was a mixed cabin, unusually, uh, with quite a few people from the UK, who actually some of them ended up being involved in the UK Fruit Fest to some degree. But my memories of that first year were there wasn't a lot of food, there wasn't enough food, there was a lot of frozen durian that they were trying to thaw out, but there wasn't the fruit wasn't great that year. So there were moments where, and for the first almost maybe for the first 2 years, there was times when the fruit wasn't that great, wasn't that abundant. But I still enjoyed it. We had amazing times around the campfire. We over the years we weren't able to do that, but we had the campfire set up. There was a lot of drumming. There was dancing. That was that was real fun, um, and just being on the lake and going to the. I went to a lot of talks in the first year, and there was also they had a fine dining restaurant called Le Fruit, which they had. We went to Le Fruit, and there was a sort of a magician guy called Oz Perlman, who's one of Mike's friends, and he's kind of getting famous now. But he came around to our table, did some magic and stuff. So it was just a cool scene. Like it was just all these interesting, fun people doing different things. Uh, it was great, and meeting Harley was cool. Getting to meet and talk to Harley, and he was a hero of mine, and had good experiences with him generally over the years with him. Um, so had a fun time. So why did I keep going back? Is a good question, because I could have left it at that. Many people only went once, of course. Most people who go to things only go one time. Well, I suppose I wanted to keep being a part of that tribe. I wanted to keep. I mean, I had friends that were continuing to go back, so I wanted to keep seeing them. I'd made a goal that I would be raw until the next Woodstock. So that's when I really committed to going raw. It was, for me, a special and unique environment. It was the most exciting thing in my life at the time. And I thought to myself, I want to go towards that excitement. You know, I'd heard that phrase, follow your excitement or whatever. So the next year I actually went to loads of fruit festivals, or not loads, but I went to 4 or 5 and went back to Woodstock. And I had great times at these events. I loved being a member of this tribe, a member of this community. And I was passionate to learn more. And I'm still interested in learning more these days. But it was such an enjoyable experience. It was peaceful, beautiful, to me like a paradise. And it only really got better. And what were the positives to me about Woods? What are the positives about the Woodstock Fruit Festival? Well, if you're a raw vegan, of course, the food. It's 100% raw vegan diet they serve. The food's got better and better, and now the food is, well, in the last few years, the food was fantastic. And to me, it's weird because sometimes people would make. John Kohler once made a video where he said that he didn't think the food was at a standard that it should be. And I thought he was being unfair a little bit. I thought the food was great, even that year that he made that video, and just got better, just got better. And they were able to. Sometimes there used to be long queues. They got rid of the long queues. Like they made it better, and the variety of the food was fantastic. And I don't think any event could really compete with Woodstock, fruit wise or food wise. They also got involved with Miami Fruit, who started to bring more exotics and tropicals and stuff. lots of mame sapote and things like that. They had the sugarcane bar, which was an amazing addition. They would have banana cinnamon rolls all the time, nice cream every day. They just went all out, and it was an incredible thing that they would do with the food. So the food, no question, and I would suggest better than anywhere, nowhere for a raw vegan better for eating than the Woodstock Fruit Festival. Um, in terms of talks and activities, I learned so much over the years and had great experiences and went to a lot of lectures in the first few years. In fact, only up to the last few years did I stop. I didn't go to as many talks. But I loved learning, loved going to talks, and and sometimes asking questions. I had a lot of questions and connecting with those people. So I loved those experiences. But there was also lots of yoga and different types of yoga. There was dancing classes. There was uh, kind of creative and artsy things you could do with whatever face painting and arts and making vision boards, and there was a whole arts and crafts building. There was different sports every day. That became very important for me. Was playing football, soccer, basketball, tennis courts, and of course there was the lake and all the lake activities. So the lake was amazing, and the weather at Woodstock was mostly brilliant, mostly perfect weather for me, because I'm someone that's from the northern hemisphere. So for me, it's long long days in the summer are what I'm used to. When I go to the tropics and it's dark at 6 p.m. and 7 p.m., I'm like, this doesn't feel right to me. So when I go somewhere like that and it's warm and sunny all day long, and it's a beautiful location beside this wonderful lake, and the Woodstock terrain, it was on a kind of a hill. That's what Camp Walden is. And the hill goes up to the top, where it goes up to even bigger like mountains, into a kind of forest and like mountains. So it's on a hill going down to the main road, and there was a big lawn, so everyone would sit on the lawn often when it was nice outside, and there was a big kitchen building halfway down, and a kind of registration administration building halfway down, and the cabins were all the way down the hill, and at the top there was the big recreational hall, the tennis courts, the basketball courts, and the baseball field, camping field, and all that stuff. So if you wanted to go up to the recreational hall for a talk, you usually had to walk up the hill. They did have golf carts, and they would take people up in golf carts sometimes. But it was a bit of a task getting up that hill. It was quite a steep hill, and but it allowed you this fantastic view, because when you were up that hill, you could see over the lake, and the weather was so beautiful all the time that you would see this great view of the lake and of the surrounding hills, the Adirondacks, and the air was fantastic. And then all these people are sitting there eating fruit on the lawn in the sun. Like, it just didn't get better than that. It just didn't get any better than that. A good thing about Woodstock as well was it did have a big amount of people. Always, never less than hundreds of people. And I think they would say things like 600 people, 500, 400 people, but I think a substantial amount of those people were sometimes coming only for a day or two, or day passes, and because they allowed day passes. So I don't know if there was ever 600 people there all at one time. I'm not sure, but there was hundreds of people, maybe 300, 400 at a time. So you couldn't get to know everyone. It was impossible to get to know everyone, but it was great to see such a mass of people, really, and such a diversity of people, and all these different interesting people. And that could be, some people saw that as a drawback. Like, some people saw that as an intimidating thing, or they felt lost in the crowd, or these kind of things. I never personally felt that, but maybe I had a different viewpoint on it. And I had a lot of friends that went. Well, I developed friendships over the years. I developed those friendships. So I had a group, and a group of people that I knew and that I spent time with, and so that made the event maybe more special for me over the years, because those relationships and friendships developed, and I became a more regular part of the event. And all of these things add up to why I kept going back. The I loved the sports activities over the years. That was a great thing. The evening activities, there was speed dating. I went to the speed dating pretty much every time that there was speed dating, and that was nice. So, and the accommodation was on offer, but the whole area was a really beautiful area, and I still have a great romance and connection with Camp Walden and that area and that special place. I think a lot of people did who went to the event. They felt this was a special place for them and like a sacred place. Not that it is a sacred, special, not that it is a religious place or anything. It's a kids' camp basically, but that's what we felt like because of our connection with the place. I wanted to mention about comparison to other events, because I can't compare it to my own event because I run my own event, the UK Fruit Fest. I have heard people say they enjoy the UK Fruit Fest more than they enjoyed Woodstock. I've heard people say that, who had been to both. I personally can't compare, and I wouldn't suggest that it's better or different or whatever, because I can't appreciate my event in the way that I could appreciate Woodstock, because I can go to Woodstock as an attendee, and it was always important to me that I went as an attendee. I was not trying to become involved with the festival. It's really tempting to want to take part in things and be part of it and give back to it. It's tempting, but I sort of realised that firstly, when you're an attendee and you pay to go, you're really contributing more than most people to the event continuing. But it also meant I could turn up and be totally free. I didn't have a class to do. I didn't have an activity to do. I didn't have people coming up to me to maybe try and get me to do things or ask questions or whatever. So I was totally free at the event, and I felt like this was the best position to be in. So I was just a part of the event, a regular attendee of the event. So I had many friends there eventually, and I just think it was great. And people like myself, we thrive with being part of something long term. And I don't want to blow my own trumpet here, but because when you have generally good intentions towards something and towards other people, over time people realize that about you. Other people don't like being part of things long term because the truth about them comes out. and they like to move around to different things because they don't want people to really figure them out. I don't mind being figured out because I was there for, as far as I could see, good intentions. I was never trying to take from Woodstock. I mean, I was trying to take a beautiful experience, and I got more out of Woodstock than I ever paid towards it. But I wasn't trying to use it to really promote myself. I rarely did anything promoting the UK Fruit Fest or talked about the festival there. I never did a presentation or anything about the festival. I was never involved in any classes or presentations at Woodstock, and probably never will be or never have been. I wasn't trying to even like become a volunteer or anything or be behind the scenes or trying to put my own spin on the event. I was just content with going and being there, and I always knew I'd made the right choice. Just go and be as an attendee. That's why I always felt was the best thing to be. Other people over the years that I went with, we're looking to get out of it. And we're saying, I remember someone saying, how do I go to this thing for free? I thought that was the wrong attitude. Or they wanted to volunteer, they wanted to teach, they wanted the event to sponsor them to do something, they wanted to be a speaker, they wanted, and it was like, you're trying to take from the event. I mean, in a lot of people's minds, they're giving by volunteering or being a speaker. They're giving. In my opinion, if you're speaking at an event, you're really taking from it. You're promoting yourself, really, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but there's a limit to that in some degree, and people end up getting resentful, and people end up starting to be entitled. And so over the years, people would be like, why am I getting, it would change from, I should go to this thing for free, to I should be getting paid to do this, to how come I'm not getting paid more, to, and you're like, this event, and I'm thinking, they're struggling to make any money at this event, and you're trying to get, and you want to be paid for, or you want to go for free to do something that you don't do professionally. If someone's a professional yoga teacher and is teaching 40 hours a week, I can totally understand if they want to get paid if they teach yoga. But a lot of people have a yoga teacher training certificate. This is just an example, by the way, it's not an exact thing, but they've never taught professionally very much, and they have a different job, and then they want to be like maybe paid or compensated or whatever to be a yoga teacher when they're not really a professional. And the truth is, a professional yoga teacher doesn't want to go to an event and teach yoga because that's their job. They don't want to go on their holiday and do their job. So there's a lot of people that were wanting to kind of give to the festival, but really they're looking to take. People wanting to sort of elevate themselves within the festival scene and then disappeared. There are a number of people who did become well-known influencers for a short period of time and then disappeared, and for a year or two were quite influential at the event and brought people, and then fell out with the whole thing and disappeared. And for me, all these people, and many people, and I'll get to more of that in a minute, but all these people kind of missed out, and that's something I want to get to. I had my best conversations often at Woodstock, fantastic conversations. That's one of the things I always went back for. From the moment I got there, sometimes I'd be sitting with a friend or someone and just have an amazing, brilliant conversation. And I met some of the best friends, fantastic people, really strong connections with people, and beautiful things happened at Woodstock, beautiful conversations, beautiful connections. And that was important, really important for me to go back for that, because I wasn't getting a lot of that in my usual life, to be honest, so I was missing out on that. Some of the cons of the Woodstock Fruit Festival, I always felt the schedule was sometimes written quite poorly. They would cram a lot of things onto the schedule at the same time. I don't think that was well managed, and it just, sometimes they would have all of their speakers, 3 or 4 speakers, all speaking at the same time. I thought that was a poor choice. They continue to do that. This year I think they're going to do the same thing. There's really no need to have so many things on at the same time. They had a big recreational hall. There's no need to have 4 talks on. We could have 1 talk on, because 200 people can go to that talk. And that would be better than having 20 people at that talk, 40 at another, 30, 15 at another, and then some people doing hula hooping, and some people doing some acro yoga, and some people doing, and have 8 activities on at the same time. So I never thought that was a great choice. I do think it was great, the fitness activities, they would generally have a great variety of those. I think that's always a good thing. You have yoga, you have running, you have a meditation class, you have even maybe a walk and talk group or something. I think that's great, variety of those things. But when it comes to the education, the talks, I don't know if there's a need to have 3, 4 talks on all at the same time, because everyone's going, well, I want to see all those talks, especially people that are new to this, thinking, love to see all those talks. Um, they filmed the talks, but they stopped filming the talks ages ago. But there was a time where they had a filming team that would film all the talks, but they gave that up a long time ago. So you couldn't go up back and see the talks. Another con about the Woodstock Fruit Festival, lack of communication. They were not very good at staying in touch with us as attendees. Um, I mean, if you emailed them, they'd email you back, but they weren't really keeping a very good relationship going. They didn't. Let me pause for a second. Yeah, so there's a lack of them sort of making you feel a bit, I don't know, special or like you're involved. Or I think even to this day, they would generally maybe send an email once a month to their newsletter. They didn't have a very active forum. When you went to the forum, it wasn't very managed at all. Social media wasn't very active. And they would kind of say, year after year, they started to say, you guys are the marketing, go and tell people about it. That's not good enough. You need to be promoting the event and just putting money into marketing and stuff. And I had a conversation with Mike Arnstein quite early on, and he was talking about trying to promote the festival and doing different marketing efforts and not getting much back from it. And I'd already, with the UK Fruit Fest, figured out a few things that were sort of working for us at our smaller level. But I don't think they ever were really seriously wanting to have that conversation. And there was times where I wanted to maybe have a conversation with them, sharing ideas of how to build these events. And, they maybe weren't as open to that or didn't think it was a concern for them. And so Woodstock sort of, I don't know the numbers wise, but for me, it didn't seem that venue could have taken, I think, 700 people, maybe even to 1,000 people, and it never got anywhere near that, and I think it could have got to that. I think it could have been packed full every year, but they didn't. Maybe they didn't want to do that or whatever. But they didn't really spend the money on the marketing. But at the same time, they didn't just do the simple things of like staying in touch with the previous attendees. Sending them an individual letter or a phone call if possible, a letter, an email, things like that sort of made people feel a bit special, that would make some people come back. And I think that those little touches are important. And they had a couple of people, they had Anne and Yulia, who were working on the event full time, and Mike was involved as well. I don't think that there's no reason that they couldn't have been doing those extra things, at least managing a forum year long that people could stay active in, maybe doing other things online throughout the year, and being a bit more proactive with staying in touch with the people. And they didn't do that very much. There was kind of a bit of a lack of leadership at the event. It used to be that Mike was sort of the leader of the event, but even he was maybe trying to pass it off to the other influencers to be leaders at the event. And I think in particular, maybe he wanted Doug Graham to step up and be sort of perceived as the leader of this movement. My perception with that is that, I believe that events need leadership and need someone to be sort of seen to be in control of running it or setting a vision and stuff for everyone. And Mike was kind of that, but wasn't exactly playing that role and kind of wanted to be a bit in the background. And then over the years, he kind of stepped down from that and wasn't very seen very much at the event, and wasn't giving talks and wasn't at the opening ceremony. So various other people were involved in sort of speaking at the start of the event and stuff and setting the whole thing up. And a lot of them weren't even, sometimes they weren't raw vegan, they weren't really part of this thing. They were talented, skilled people and good at talking and presenting and stuff, but they weren't really raw vegans. They didn't really understand this event in the way that Mike was when we started off going, and his vision and everything was very powerful, for us. Doug Graham, I think, I do think Mike maybe wanted Doug to sort of be that, and Doug is didn't exactly take up that role as much as he could have either, and so there was all these people that could have kind of been perceived as running the event or being the leader of the event, but no one quite stepped up to that role sometimes. And that was something I think was a little bit missing. It was a bit of a, later on, was a bit of an inspiration, a vision, like this is the direction we're going, pushing things forward and all that. It felt over the years that they'd maybe lost that a little bit, and that the wrong people started to try and take control of the event for their own reasons and wanted their own agendas pushed onto the event. And some people wanted to promote like alternative relationship styles as part of it, or different whatever gender ideas or things like that they wanted to be part of the event. And then some people just thought, well, the education isn't important, it should just be about fun. And that wasn't really true. That wasn't really right. But they wanted it to be more fun for them and didn't care about the talks and stuff. So different people had different attitudes like that. There was also some probably people involved at the event who probably shouldn't have been there. So there was bad decisions made on that. There was, in particular, one person that ended up being a big problem for the festival. It should have never been, or shouldn't have been encouraged to go from early on, but was there for a number of years and ended up being a big problem. Won't go into that too much at the moment, but complaints were made about this person. He should not have been allowed to come back. He was continued to be allowed to be part of it and eventually caused bigger problems. So there was things like that. Accommodation wise, the accommodation could be very simple. The private rooms were fantastic. The cabin rooms and things were designed, more for children, I suppose. Were quite basic, but they were often very spacious because they were never full. So sometimes you would have 3 or 4 people in a big massive cabin thing. So it could be quite spacious and nice, really. And you would meet people in the cabins and sometimes have nice times there. So the accommodation was probably quite basic for some people. I can't really think of many bad things about Woodstock. These are the things that I'm bringing up. But if anything else comes to mind, I'll think about it. So why did it have maybe a lack of the success it could have had, or why did it struggle? I personally think it should have been packed every year. I think it definitely had the ability to be that. Why didn't people keep coming back? Why didn't other people come? I think partly it's down to them not being as good with keeping in touch with people, with encouraging people. I've got a lot of friends who loved Woodstock, but they won't be going this year, and they didn't go last year. And I honestly think they're missing out. And I honestly think they just forgot how good it was. And that's what people do. They forget. This happens at the UK Fruit Fest as well. People leave and they're like, this was the most amazing thing, best thing ever, best week I've had in a long time. I'm going to keep coming. And then they never come back. And what happens is people just forget. They just forget how good it was. They forget how much they enjoyed it. And they allow those commitments they make to disappear, and other things come up and other exciting things come up in their life. And, so that's kind of natural. Why didn't people go? That's something that's always fascinated by me. This is still going, but at Walden for those 10 years, it was just the greatest thing for raw vegans and the raw vegan lifestyle. The best thing that was on offer, alongside the other festivals. I'll put that in place. But it was the best thing that any raw vegan could have put any time or money towards. The best thing. And yet, I've met a number of raw vegans that lived near the event nearby Woodstock who never went. And there'll be many that lived in New York because of how big New York is who never went, who knew about it, who heard about it, who never went. Why didn't people go? To me, that's a real mystery. Part of it is that you do still need to make an effort on the side of the event promoter. You've really got to push it on people. Unfortunately, this isn't one of those things that you can just start it up and everyone's going to come running. It doesn't work like that. Unfortunately, they should, and that's the other side of it. They should, but they don't know how good it is. They don't know. They don't trust it. They don't whatever. So the amount of people over the years that I'd be like, how are you not? Why are you not at Woodstock? Why are you not coming to this? People I'd speak to online, like, what are you doing? And they'd be like, yeah, other priorities, blah, blah, blah. And I couldn't understand it. I could not understand. I still can't understand it to this day. And I honestly think there's some people that are just like, I should be a speaker. I should be, some people who are experienced raw vegans that think, well, I should be a part of this, rather than realizing it's for experienced raw vegans. It's not, and not everyone can speak, not everyone can teach at it. But it's been the interesting thing for me is the amount of people that weren't raw vegans that went to Woodstock. Loads. And had a great time. Compared to the amount of people that are raw vegan who would be like, oh no, I go to, and they would say things like, I go to the tropics, or I go to Costa Rica, or I go to, and you're like, and I try to say to them, this is way better. This is way better. Because the beauty of life isn't in going and getting a papaya, a fruit stall, and going to the beach. It's about sharing great times with great people, regardless of the fruit quality. And Woodstock had better fruit than the tropics, 100%. The only thing, it didn't have better durian than Thailand or whatever, so I accept that. But after a couple of days, durian's just durian. If you don't have people to share that with, it's just another food. Real fruitarians don't worship at the altar of durian. It's just another food. It's a great one, but it's just another food. And really it should be about people. So the people that try and go and find the best fruit somewhere, I think it's a wrong thing to do. It all comes down to the people that you share your time with, the connections you have. And that's what this event gave in such abundance. And when people would say things to me like, well, I can take the money I would spend on Woodstock, and Woodstock was always cheap to go to. I couldn't believe people would say this is expensive. I had guys that were basically millionaires say to me, why is it so expensive to go to Woodstock? And I was like, are you kidding, man? The money that you've wasted in your life, and I'm starting to be a little bit ranty here, I don't want to be, but people waste money on all sorts of things that don't have any value all the time. This was a real true thing of value, a paradise, a beautiful thing. And people couldn't see it. And it was a bit of a frustration for me, because I would think this event should be packed with people, and I knew at times they were struggling financially and stuff, so I was always like, this is why aren't these people coming to this and supporting this? Even if you whatever, even if you don't think it's the greatest thing ever or whatever, but it's the best thing for this movement, so why not support it? Why not be there? And that was always something I couldn't quite understand. But I saw it in a different way. It's just a different way of looking at it. So I don't know why people didn't go back. I had to kind of push myself to keep going back to Woodstock. Even I went 10 times in a row. But sometimes I'd be preparing to go. I'd say to myself, I know I have to go to this thing. Sometimes I would forget why I was going. And then I would go again, and I would turn up, and I'd immediately say, oh yeah, I remember why I'm here. Because it was special. It was a special energy, a special thing about it. I felt so great at Woodstock. That was another thing. You just felt so healthy, so good. You were always at your best. Like all your best intentions and things came out because you were filled up with the things that the actual thing that you need in life is that community feeling, that connection feeling. When you have that, you feel full. And that's what you got. You got filled up by this great feeling. And it's a fantastic thing. Um, so I don't know. And why every raw vegan influencer wasn't there as a standard, not because they're getting paid to go there, just because they should be there. They want to be there. This is for them. But it bamboozled me. Bamboozled me. And I think partly people wanted to get something from it. And that's the sad thing for me. People were looking to maybe wanting to get something out of it and didn't want to go unless they were getting something out of it. And there were people over the years that were sort of thrown out of the event. That's another thing over the years. There was controversies where various speakers, Harley and Freely, were kind of de-pioneered from the event. This is an old story. John Kohler was disinvited. Doug Graham was disinvited. And there might be others. I know that Philly Raw Christina kind of fell out with them. And others maybe didn't feel welcome or didn't come back or whatever. And those situations were, it was a shame that those things happened. With the Harley and Freely situation, they started to promote cooked food. The truth is there were other pioneers that were eating cooked food. They weren't promoting cooked food, but they were like, there was a couple. Not all of them, but a few of them were. But they kept it to themselves. But Harley and Freely became more open about this raw till 4 and eating cooked food and stuff. And they decided to change them from being pioneers to special guests or something. And they took that as a big offence because they had played a big role in promoting the event. They had played a big role in the event happening, and it should have been maybe it should have been handled better. And the way that Harley was, he took it as a way to create drama and put out videos and get attention and turn it into that they'd been thrown out of the event and he fell out with people and he never went back. And that was a real shame because he was a great part of the event and a big part of the community and the movement. And it's a real shame that all fell out, and that unity and that thing which was there in the first couple of years or whatever, that didn't continue. And that's going back to my point of a lack of leadership. The leadership wasn't right. And to be honest, there was people who were looking to take from the festival, people that were leaders of the event who were looking to get out of it. So for some of them, Harley and Freely not being there was a positive. In the same way that for some of them, Doug Graham not being there was a positive, because then they could try and put themselves in the position as the top speaker at the event. And that's, unfortunate. The Doug Graham situation may be a little different. And I think that there was probably Mike was already falling out with him a little bit, and they were maybe the relationship wasn't so great anyway. And John Kohler made a video that was negative about the event for some reason. It wasn't a great choice on his part, and it wasn't a true video. The food was great that year. No one was complaining about the food, and he made a video about the food not being up to par. So he got cancelled from the event, and all of those people should have all been water under the bridge. All of those people should have been coming back to the event. They should have paid to come, but they should have been coming back to the event. They should have got over it. They all missed out. All these people who could have been part of Woodstock over the years missed out hugely by not continuing to be a part of it. And but maybe it became impossible for them to come back or whatever. I just think it was a shame what happened. It was it's very hard to do these things right, but it was either poor leadership, lack of leadership, bad communication, these kind of things. And unfortunately, even in the paradise of the raw vegan festival community, that happens. That's humans, that's people, that's egos. And I think if more people had looked long term, rather than thinking, what can I get out of this? Kind of like John F. Kennedy said, don't think what you can get from your country, think what your country can do for you, what can you do for your country? What can you do for the Woodstock Fruit Festival, and rather than what can you get from it, then the whole thing would have been better. But that takes leadership. That takes someone there who wants to run the thing and, and does it in the right way and all that stuff. And that's tough. And Mike was not focused on it over the years towards the end. So there was a number of controversies over the years. To some degree, that actually helped to promote the festival. That got the word out there. And there are a lot of controversy videos about the event, and there are people that made videos like, why I'm not going back to the Woodstock Festival. They got many thousands of views for the event and just spread the event. So, all in all, the Woodstock Fruit Festival is one of the best things I ever experienced in my life. I'm looking forward to going next week. If you're there, please feel free to talk to me, come up and see me. I don't run the event, I'm not working at it. I'm not giving talks at the event, but you're welcome to talk to me if you see me. And I don't talk as much in real life. I'm not going to talk at you for an hour, in real life. But you're welcome to have a chat, and we can, hopefully get to know each other or whatever. If you're going to the event, my recommendations is use this as a time to learn. Try and go to the presentations and ask questions. And also try and make an effort to connect with people and talk with more people, and those chances to meet and talk with people and introduce yourself to new people. Try and take those opportunities and get involved. Go to the activities, do stuff with each other. Try all the different new fruits that you've never tried before. Be open-minded about that. And stay raw at the event. Don't leave and have a pizza. By the way, there was a number of people over the years, Miami Fruit being being a big part of that. Miami Fruit would bring a bunch of people, and they would all leave all the time, every day, to go and eat cooked food. Miami Fruit and their crew. Because that's what they want to do. They don't want to stay raw, but and a lot of people would do that. They would go away to some local vegan place and have pizza and stuff, and then come back to the festival. And you're free to do that. I would encourage you not to do that. Feel what this diet is like for a week. Legitimately try this diet if you've never done it before. So it's very simple. Woodstock. Get involved. Be open. Try and talk with people, connect with people, ask questions of people, go to the presentations that catch your eye, go to some of the presentations that don't catch your eye, go to things you wouldn't usually go to, try classes you wouldn't usually go to. Don't just go and hang out in the sun all the time, that would be fun, but go to things, do things, be part of it, is what I would suggest. And that's about it for me. The Woodstock Fruit Festival has been one of the best things in my life. I loved it. When we left Walden, I was sobbing, crying. I was crying about it on the bus leaving, because I sort of thought, I kind of felt that's it. It's going to end. Because I knew Mike Arnstein was going to stop being involved. Well, that was the word. And And I know how hard it is to keep an event going and do an event and financially and all that. And I wasn't convinced that they would want to keep doing that without someone there who can fund it if things go wrong. So I just felt like maybe it'll never happen again. So it's a bonus that it is happening in Miami, woodstockfruitfestival.com. There might be last minute tickets. And it's worthwhile going. It's been one of the most beautiful things and best things in my life. I've loved it. I wanted it to last forever and get bigger and be the best thing. But if it doesn't, it'll be a fantastic memory in my life. Those who went, who got it, really got a lot from it. And yeah, I profoundly promote it to you as better than anything. If you're thinking about going to the tropics, go to Woodstock. If you're thinking about going to someone's retreat, go to Woodstock. If you're thinking about going to a fasting thing, go to Woodstock. It is way better than all those. It's way better than all those. So thank you for watching.